At around 40 years old, she quit employment and dived into the fashion territory. With absolutely no experience in fashion or the industry, it is a wonder how she was able to build such a huge fashion empire from scratch. It is extraordinary women like Wandia Gichuru who enable society to think, push, and create better than before. She is one who has enabled girls and women in Kenya to be able to not just fashionably build Kenya, but buy Kenya as well. Today we speak to her on Top Job and ask her what exactly did it take to get here. Thank you, Wandia. Lovely smile. Are we just going to smile now?
Yes. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to
You're just gonna like
look
sit
at you and
wait?
smile.
No.
Like everything you ask me, I'll just smile.
No, well, I mean, obviously, thank you so much for having us and
You're
for
most welcome.
allowing
Thank
us.
you for asking me on your show.
No, I had to. I mean, you are someone who I've really followed and looked up to, and I'm sure a lot of people have followed and looked up to for a very long time. And many are very curious to know how you got started. Tell us a little bit about
Me as a person.
you
me
as a yes, because
business.
I'm sure you didn't just like pop into the world and Vivo happened.
Well, no. So my
Right.
dad ended up going to Canada, which is where he studied, and met my mother. So my mother's
Excellent.
Canadian.
Excellent.
They met in Montreal. They married in Montreal. My older brother and I were both born there. So we came to Kenya, properly settled here when I was about 7. Went to Kilimani Primary School.
Excellent.
Finished CPE in those days.
Yeah.
And then went to Loreto Convent, Musangari, and did up to O levels. And then went to university in Canada. I think my degree was a 3-year one, and then I worked for 3 years after that.
What was your degree on?
Economics.
Right.
Yeah, so my dad studied economics, which I think in the back of my mind, I was like, well, if nothing else, I can just do that because, he did it. He's had an interesting enough career. He ended up being a civil servant all his life.
Okay.
And a pretty honest one, which meant we never had much money.
Oh, really? That's a thing?
Yeah, no, I mean, he didn't take bribes. And he could have, because he ran the part of the Ministry of Trade that in those days you needed licenses for everything.
I see.
And he's the one who issued a lot of those licenses. And so he was constantly being offered.
Wow.
But he had this saying, so on his desk he had a plaque, and it said, "Eat bread and salt, but speak the truth." So I went into international development type stuff
Nice.
quite quickly.
Big.
And I think that's interesting. So I'm interested in people.
Nice.
And I think the reason I got into it was because I didn't ever feel that I could be completely motivated just to make money for the sake of making money. I tried. Like I worked at JP Morgan for 6 months once in London, and everyone just seemed like totally driven to just make money. And I'm like, I think making money is great, but as a result of doing something you really enjoy, as opposed to you're excited just because you know what you're doing is going to make you money.
Did you ever find that sweet spot in employment as much as doing something you enjoy and you're making a decent living out of it?
Yeah, I mean, working for an international donor or whatever as an expatriate, you earn decent money and you've got a good lifestyle.
Get
Actually, more than anything, it's your lifestyle because your expenses get covered, right?
Obviously, you're living this beautiful high life, doing all of this international donor stuff, and you're making a pretty decent living. And you woke up one day and decided, I don't want this beautiful life anymore. I want to become an entrepreneur.
It wasn't quite that. No.
All right.
So what happened was I was on a 10-year contract.
Okay.
My last
10-year
job
contract.
was a 10-year contract
That wow.
could not be renewed. So I knew that going in, and as the years got closer to 10, I started thinking, well, what do I want to do next?
Sure.
And I think if I hadn't been forced to think about it, I might still be doing that. I might still be doing that kind of work.
Interesting.
So it had been exciting, but I'd had kids. My eldest was about 5, my younger daughter was 3, and I'd moved with them twice.
Okay.
And I just knew I didn't want to keep doing that. As kids get older and they're like, okay, but what happens to our friends? Like,
Isn't
we
it?
have to go to a new
Yeah,
house.
expat
like,
kids, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, some kids
To get
grow up
a
at-
deep root
yeah,
in any place is difficult.
And I'm very sentimental. I love the fact that I still have some of my best friends today are friends I've known for 40 years, you know. So that to me has been really important. And I think when I see people who've moved around so much, it's hard to do that.
From like high school days, do you still have people
Yes.
from
Oh
that,
yeah.
from way back?
Like when I was 12.
So
vacations to
after
do
your
so.
10-year contract, or as it was going down, you then decided, let me go get accredited as a life coach, and that's
Yes.
what I'm going to do. And you
Mm.
said you were going to, in your mind, you were coming to do it in Kenya.
As I trained to be a coach,
Uh-huh.
I had to be coached.
Okay.
And it was such a powerful experience. I mean, it really helped me just gain clarity around some of my, you know, the things that were holding me back, some of my limiting beliefs,
Right.
and some of, you know, my choices around perspectives, because it's all choices. And just understanding all that, I had to read a lot, I had to think about a lot. I'm like, oh my God, this stuff.
This is who I
This
am.
is, yeah, but this can make a huge difference.
Sure.
When I was training to be a coach, one of the things that they taught us how to do was to work with people to help them figure out their life purpose
Right.
statements. And you know, there's you know, an exercise you do to try and come up with an actual statement. And it may sound simple, but it's one of the biggest,
difficult,
most
Yeah.
scary
Yeah.
things. And I was taken through the process as they were training us.
Yeah.
You know, they would train us by using some of us as examples. So I was the one selected for that exercise.
Right.
And so in front of a classroom of 30 people, I had to come up with my life purpose statement. It took about 2 hours. The way it came out in that exercise was, and there's a way you have to say it. So I'm just going to say this so it doesn't sound crazy, but you don't say, I want to be.
Okay.
You say, I am.
I
Right?
am.
You own it. You claim
Okay.
that purpose. So
Okay.
my purpose statement is, I am a loving light
Mm-hmm.
that wakes people up to their power.
Wow.
And part of, for me,
Wow.
part of owning your power is, you know, recognizing that you are making choices at every step of every day,
Mm-hmm.
every minute.
And you can't cede that responsibility to anything
You
or anyone
can't.
else.
And if
isn't
you
it?
do,
Yeah.
you're giving away your power.
That's right.
And then it was like, okay, let's go do this coaching thing.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I sucked at something.
Okay.
Like one part of the coaching,
Uh-huh.
which was asking people to pay me
Oh, well done.
to be coached. You know, the payment part is something separate, but there was something really weird about sort of, you know, I'm sitting here with you, we're having a coaching session,
Yeah.
you might be brought to tears, and, you know, you've like laid out your life, you know, concerns and whatever, and then I'm like, okay, that was really, really, really good, and can I now have 20,000 shillings?
yes.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it just,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that people shouldn't pay for coaching. I absolutely think you should, and I will pay someone to coach. I just wasn't good at getting paid. And now with sales,
Right.
I cannot stand in a Vivo store and sell.
Really?
No. I feel very awkward. Right in the beginning, you know, I sat in the stores, you know, for a few months, and people would ask me,
Yeah.
like, oh, how much is this dress? And I'd look at the price, and then I'd feel embarrassed. Like, I wouldn't know what to say, and I'd be like, well, you know, it's supposed to be 4,000, but you know what, maybe you can just pay.
Oh,
Like, I start
Wandia,
offering
come on,
discounts
like, yeah.
even before they
Just
ask
take
for one.
it, and, you know, just
Yeah,
have one.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, so then one of my friends and I, and she was in between jobs as well,
Uh-huh.
so we had quite a bit of free time, and we started doing a lot of dance classes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we started doing salsa and hip hop, and so 8 years ago, and because we were trying to take it quite seriously, we were like, oh, we need dance sneakers, we need proper
There we
ballroom
go.
shoes,
There we go.
you know, but where are you going to get the shoes?
So you guys were like, we need gear for
We need
this.
gear for this, and then we were like, well, if we need gear for this,
How many else?
maybe other people need
Need
gear
gear
for
for this.
this, and that was the idea. And then we're like, okay, how are we going to do it? We can't afford a store, so let's do it online. Okay, where are we going to get the products? We started researching Alibaba. I mean, all the usual stuff that
Yeah.
everyone does, you know? And then we found a few suppliers in China and in South Africa as well.
Yeah.
And so we just brought a bunch of stuff. So we created flyers, I mean, printing at home, dropping them at schools where the kids do ballet classes, you know, going to the different dance teachers and asking them, will you
And
push our product.
because you guys were dancing yourselves, I mean, this was something that it was close to you anyway. So
It was. I mean, we were beginners doing like 1 class, 2 classes a week kind of thing. Yeah. But that's how it started. And then what I'd realized was, even though we thought we could sell it online, everyone wanted to come and try the stuff on. And so people were coming to my house, and I'm like, I don't want my house turning into a shop, and so let's just see. So we go to the junction, we go into the management office, and there was a guy called James, who neither of us had ever met before, and we're like, we'd like to find out if we can have a store, please. We have a business called Vivo Activewear, and and he's like, okay, what do you guys do? And like, we specialize in dance and fitness.
Look
and
at you.
And he's like, sounds really interesting. We actually have 1 space remaining on the ground floor. How do you apply? And he's like, you need a business plan. You need projections.
Yeah, some other corporate stuff that you need.
Yeah, for the next like 2-3 years. I'm like, okay, quickly come home. And it's like, Google template for business plan. You're like, like how do you do a budget and financial projection?
Nice.
And at that, he told us roughly what the rent would cost. So I'm like, okay, let's just work backwards.
Yeah.
Let's just see, well, what would it take to break even? So I remember at that point, the rent was maybe 100,000 shillings a month.
Right. This is what, 7, 8 years ago?
Yeah, 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
And we knew we would have to buy product, and our cost of good would be whatever, and so we sort of, to break even, we'd had to do sales of about 700.
What would you say were the ingredients to get you to that point? Was it because it was in you that no one had to come and tell you, Wandia, you know what, you have to sell this stuff?
When we were committing to the rent and to the lease, because it's a 6-year lease that's going to escalate.
Right.
We were like, are people really going to buy this stuff? Like, is there enough people interested?
Were there voices in your head?
Yes.
Like,
yeah, so we were like, okay, well, we need to hedge that risk with something. So like, well, let's just bring clothing, regular clothing, to put alongside that in the stores, so that in case not enough people are buying the dance stuff, we can still sell the clothing stuff. So we did a buying trip to Thailand, just went to the wholesale market, shipped, several, cartons of clothing, and that's what everyone loved.
Wow.
So no one was really that interested in the dance stuff, and we were like, okay, well, the market speaks. You've got to listen, right?
Got you. Besides the moment that you signed that lease, what other daunting days did you have where you just thought, what the hell am I doing?
Okay. I mean, I've got many high moments as well, but a low moment was when we realized that 2 of our sales team had been stealing like significant amounts of money for over 5 months.
Oh, gotta love retail.
But it was so negligent of us, because we just weren't on top of it. Like, it was such a they were stealing in such a simple way. I'm like, how did we not know this? Because we weren't reconciling the banking deposits on a daily basis.
So yeah, lessons cost money.
But you want to learn them quickly. Do you know what I mean? Like, the sooner you learn it, the cheaper the price that you pay for having learned it. So
it
so it's
doesn't
like they
help
say,
to
like,
have
fail fast.
Yeah. And fail forward, keep moving.
Yeah.
How is it putting your own savings, and you're like, well, I know kids got to eat and stuff, but I believe in this?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I think that's partly why I've been so determined to hopefully keep it working. It's not money I can afford to lose.
Right. So it has to work.
So it kind of has to work. I mean, obviously, you can't control that 100%, but I have sleepless nights till today.
Really?
If I'm concerned about the finances of the business.
Right.
I don't have anyone. I have friends who, if they run a business and that month revenues can't cover payroll, they have their husbands they can turn to and say, help me out, whatever. My staff they're the ones that I feel the most sort of committed to, because that's their livelihood. You know what I mean? I knew what it was like when I was working. I was paid every single month.
Right.
And I planned my life around that payment.
And now you're on the other side.
And now you're on the other side, and it's like, people, they need to know that they can pay their rent.
Right.
That they can, feed their families.
Wandia, I want to ask you so many other questions, but I think we have to take a break, because this is beyond inspiring. Let's take a break and look at today's top tip. On today's top tip, we talk about a communication medium that has become so mainstream and so much a part of our lives, but many of us get it wrong most of the time. Let's talk about the 10 commandments of emailing. So guys, for anybody with sweetbabygirllips45@gmail.com and any of the other weird emails that you have out there, please remember that how you email speaks a lot about you. We're back with the phenomenal Wandia Gichuru.
Aww.
Yes.
Aww.
Yes, you are phenomenal. And I'm very curious to know, how did you get from that store in Junction to 11?
12, actually.
12.
About to be 13.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So it's been 7 years. So, I mean, you know, I think to a certain extent, your capacity to grow depends on how much money you
Right,
have. I mean,
right.
it's expensive. Rolling out stores, signing leases, doing fit outs, stocking them up takes money. So our growth up until end of last year was all funded by internal
Plowed
revenues.
back money?
Just all plowed back money. You know, in maybe 8 months, we'll have opened 4 or 5 stores. So, you know, if we had that kind of money up front,
Right.
you know, we'd be at 25. I think there's a saturation point at which opening additional stores may not grow the business, but we would then look outside of Kenya. I also went from running, and this is true for a lot of entrepreneurs, you start a business and you're managing everything. You're the jack of all trades. I'm doing marketing from my bed on a Sunday morning, like posting pictures on Facebook, and then I'm calling the suppliers, and then I'm, doing the bank transfers. And I was doing it all. And then you start to bring people in, and there's a letting go process.
Oh.
Which isn't always easy.
Handing over to someone else.
And trusting that someone else can do it
the way you
would, and then having to learn that it's not about making it like you, it's just doing a good job. And sometimes they'll do a better job. You know what I mean? Like their take on what content you should post online might be better than,
and trusting them to do that.
Yeah.
That must be a
and
huge
so
internal
I'm finicky. I'm like,
are you a micromanager?
I don't want a spelling mistake.
Got you.
On our social media page, I don't want to promise a client something and not deliver it on time. Just recognizing, and I mean, maybe this is obvious to a lot of other people. It wasn't obvious to me, that you are not going to grow your business unless it's a purely automated business. Every other kind of business, it's the people that you bring on that are going to grow it. So if you can't be good at managing people and growing people, forget it. And
so now you've got your people, and you've also got other people at home. You've got your kids, right?
I sometimes have to ask my kids, like, am I a terrible mom? They'll be like, no, Mom,
do you have like a survey, like after dinner, like, please fill out this question?
like, tell me the truth. Like, where am I messing up?
Right.
And they've had to learn, because there are a lot of parents at the school where they go that at least one parent's not full-time working, and so they're there all the time.
Doing their extracurriculars and all
You know,
that.
they come to every assembly,
Oh,
and they're there
yeah.
for, you know, and I've had instances where I've showed up after not being around for a long time, and you know, one of the other mothers will be like, "Oh, you've actually come today," you know, and I'm like, you know.
I'll chat to you,
Yeah,
Susie, later.
yeah. But so, you know, I've said to my kids, like, if you really want me, you need, you know, I can only come maybe once a month.
And they've adjusted to this?
Yeah, they've gotten used to it, you know. I mean,
like that's what mom does, and that's what she is.
Yeah,
and
so I'm like, so
you know.
you need to pick the one time. Like, don't ask me to come for some game where you're a sub sitting on the sideline the whole time. Like, you know, pick, pick the day where you're playing.
That's brilliant.
Or, you know, where you're
I'm not coming to see you on the bench.
That sounds terrible,
know,
right?
no,
But
but
it's
yeah,
true.
it
I
is,
mean,
yeah.
I'm like, if I can only come once or twice,
Yeah. Make it count.
make it count, you know?
As you may or may not know, here on Top Job, one of the things that we love to do is to get someone who is on the up, a young person who can get a chance to speak to you, and you can mentor them and guide them on some of the wisdom that you've acquired over the years. Our mentee today is 26-year-old Ed Magema. He is a pure math graduate from Harvard University, and he has transitioned from that austere life to now come back to Kenya and work on a startup that sends students over to the US to top-tier universities to become better versions of themselves. Today he sits down with Wandia Gichuru to ask her a couple of questions about entrepreneurship, the numbers game, and exactly what it takes to make it to the top.
Hi guys, my name is Ed Magema. I'm a young avid entrepreneur. Today I'm going to meet Wandia Gichuru, and I'm super excited because I tried to get into the KCB Lansden, a program that she has been running with other judges. I didn't get in, but today is a big opportunity for me to talk to her about entrepreneurship and what young people need to be looking at when they're pursuing their own businesses.
Ed Magema is the founder and CEO of Upstart Consult, an education company that provides world-class support to students aspiring to study in top colleges in the USA. He is also the incoming director for Chippercash, a global money remittance company. Magema has worked as a consultant with Dahlberg Global Advisors, a Tier 1 strategy advisory firm. He holds a bachelor's degree in mathematics from Harvard and is a recipient of 2 of Harvard's prestigious fellowships, including the Forsheimer Public Service Award and the Harvard John A. Paulson School of Engineering and Applied Sciences Entrepreneurship Award. In his spare time, he enjoys exploring nature, philosophy, and debating.
What were some of the things that you wanted to find out? Because I don't know anything about maths.
So what are the key things do you think young men and women who are interested in becoming successful in this space need to keep in mind? Maybe 3 to 5 things.
Wow. I mean, I think, you know, it may be slightly different depending on the sector you're in and the business you're doing, but being very clear about what it is you're offering. I mean, it may sound obvious, but, you know, what is it you're offering and to who?
Right.
And are you matching what that group's needs are with what you're offering? And do those things add up? Do they align? You know?
Very interesting. Which leads me actually to my next question, which is, so there is about setting a price as one of the challenges. What other challenges have you seen entrepreneurs dealing with? Talk about how to develop a team, the founding team.
You've got to understand what the commitment level is. You know, even as you're signing the partnership, think about, well, assuming we will at some point, we may at some point want to dissolve this partnership, how would we do that?
Right.
I listened to a talk the other day by a guy who'd raised a lot of money here, and he said, you talk about how you want to end it before you talk about whether you are actually going to go through with it.
True.
You know, because it will end. You know, it's almost like you will have to get divorced at some point. So
Yes.
how are you going to do that divorce? And when do you want to get divorced? Are you going to be prepared to get divorced when I'm ready to get divorced? Or how's that going to work?
Right. I just want to run through some quick fun facts about yourself. Are you ready?
Okay, yeah, should I be scared? All right, let's do this.
Maybe.
Okay.
All right, so my first question is, are you dating?
Woo! Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's
So-
early days, so I'm not going to speak too much about it.
What's one beauty tip you have for the ladies out there?
Beauty tip: invest in like a decent way of washing, your skin, and just avoiding putting, touching too much and stuff like that. I think, yeah, healthy skin, drinking a lot of water.
Backtracking back to your college days,
Uh-huh.
what was that one subject you ever did and it made a whole difference for you?
So
Just
in my
one.
first year, I did like intro to psychology. I thought that was really interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, like
Awesome.
just learning how people think.
Okay, great. The next one will be, what's that one life achievement that you've been most proud of?
Wow, raising kids, even though it's hard, and even though I don't always do it that well, but just the fact that they're still alive, they're
Is there a
still with
trick?
me. Yeah, I think I just try and keep it real.
Who is that one Kenyan that you wouldn't go without celebrating today?
Oh, I mean, I think of it more as a group. So,
Okay.
I mean, today, when I think about it, I think about the Vivo team. That is now over 100 people. So, I like to think of them as the heroes who
The
are
dream
like
team.
the dream team that's
Mhm.
making this possible. My mother, who's Canadian but became a Kenyan citizen and is turning 80 this year, and
Oh, wonderful.
yeah, she's very special.
Happy birthday to her, whenever it's coming.
Yeah, it's in November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're a big fan of yoga and bachata.
Yes.
What else?
Good wine,
Ooh.
laughing.
Which actually leads me to the next question. Which is your preferred holiday destination?
Oh, so it depends what I'm in the mood for. But I love to go to New York if I'm looking for high energy, just like
Environment.
non-stop, boom, whatever. And then if I really want to chill, I go to Galu Beach. So I think this is super exciting. I love what you're doing and what you're
Exactly.
trying to do. I look forward to watching your journey
Thank you
grow
so much.
and seeing the leaders that are going to come out of working with you in that space. And thank you so much for wanting to meet me. I really enjoyed talking
Thank
to
you
you.
so much. It's my
All right.
pleasure.
Thanks.
Those were some brilliant insights from Powerhouse CEO and founder of Vivo Activewear, Wandia Gichuru. Thank you for watching Top Job. My name is Mwenesi Musalia. Remember, it's all about power, moves, only.
He once touted along Nairobi's Route 44 to raise money to see him through university. Simon Kabu, however, worked hard to rise above his humble beginnings to become exceedingly successful. Together with his wife, Sarah Kabu, they have built what is arguably one of the most successful travel companies in East Africa. Join us next week to find out how you, like them, need not start out with all the advantages in life to be successful.